Okay, here's the factoring foldable that we started in class. If you were absent, it should look like this. And then we're going to first do under the first tab on the green sheet that I have, the GCF. And at the top, I'm going to put, you first always check to factor out GCF. So for this first example, I have 6x cubed plus 42x squared. And you're going to tell the GCF from the coefficients and from the variables. So the greatest common factor of 6 and 42 is 6. And because they both have at least an x squared is also part of my greatest common factor. So then I can factor that out, 6x squared, and what I'm left with is x plus 7. Now I can distribute back to check to see if I'm right. And if I do 6x squared times x, that becomes 6x cubed. 6x squared times 7, that becomes 42x squared. So that is correct. And the second example, 3x squared plus 15x plus 9. I can't factor out an x here because the 9 does not have one. But my greatest common factor then is just 3. So when I factor out 3, I have x squared plus 5x plus 3. This should still be under the GCF tab, on the GCF tab. So then on the next one, which is the quadratics tab, it should look like this, and then when you flip it over, you should have it like this. And down here, we're going to first do when a is equal to 1 or when a is equal to -1. So if a is a negative, always factor out a negative first. So for example, negative x squared minus 6x minus 8. Because the a is a negative, I'm going to factor out a negative, and it's really just a -1 in this case, and what happens is it changes all the signs in the polynomial. So I'm left with x squared plus 6x plus 8, and here I'm going to give you the rules that only work for when a is negative, or sorry, for when a is equal to 1. Find the numbers that multiply to C and combine to B. So in this case, I'm trying to find what multiplies to be 8, that adds to be 6, and it's going to be 4 and 2. And because it's a positive 8, the two numbers have to each be the same, either both positive or both negative. Well, in this case, the middle term that you're combining them to be is positive, so that means they're both going to be positive. So you're going to place in the binomials with the x, and my answer is x plus 2, x plus 4, both positive. And don't forget the negative that I factored out at the beginning. I'm going to do one more example when a is equal to 1, and you can flip that tab over and do it on the back on the left side still. And so I have 2x squared plus 28x minus 144. And I have this under the category a is equal to 1 because after I factor out a 2, my a is equal to 1. So here I'm trying to figure out, remember I'm going to bring my 2 down. I'm trying to figure out what two numbers multiply to be negative 72 that combine to be positive 14. And because it's a negative 72, I know one's positive and one's negative. This is going to be x and x. I got to figure out what these numbers are. One's positive, one's negative. So I can list out all the factors of 72. I got 1 times 72, 2 times 36, 3 times 24, 4 times 18, 5 doesn't go into it, 6 times 12, 7 doesn't go into it, and 8 times 9. Once you got them right next to each other, you're finished. So because one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative, I'm really finding the pair that where their difference is that middle term of 14. So my answer is going to be 4 and 18. Now I have to decide which one's going to be the positive. Well, because when you combine them, you're left with a positive, that means that my larger number is going to be positive, my smaller number is going to be negative. This should still be split down the middle, and you can try one more. Negative x squared plus 13x minus 12.